you just joined, we are going to be we are live streaming this on YouTube at the moment. So, for those of you who are with us now, if Discord is too inconvenient and you would like to jump into YouTube, you can do that. We will be reading comments live from there. If you have questions here in Discord, obviously your voice, as always, will be on the live stream as well as the video that we archive afterwards. Uh, we're going to be doing a video, so if you can see me, great. If you can see Dan and Dave as well, great. Just wanted to bring a little bit of a more personal touch to the meetings, and obviously get it out a little bit further if we possibly can. So,
Touch.
and who knows, we might be expanding this going forward. So, let's see. Um, I did want to touch on this. Elias, did anyone attend the drone responders meeting today? I did not. Dave, I know, is pretty engaged with that. I don't know if you got an opportunity, Dave.
I did not.
Okay,
I saw it. I was had some other things cooking today.
gotcha. All right. So, um, did you happen to attend, Elias?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good session today. Two FAA members, I don't remember their names exactly, but they were really uh, engaged in. I mean, they were talking about waivers and tactical waivers and public operators.
Gotcha.
And then it was like a free for all kind of. You can ask any kind of question you wanted. They must hold a. I mean, they must have been on the in the in the beginnings of Part 107 and just UAS in general, because those guys were answering every question in the book between Part 107 and non Part 107 questions and public operator and civil operator questions, and they were just yeah, they probably answered over 100 questions that people had
Wow.
today. Yeah, it was nuts.
Do you know if they archive that so that it can be watched later, or
Supposedly they did. I don't know
okay,
where, but yeah, maybe they have
cool.
a website. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll check that out. And if you come across it, let us know so that we can give it a look because I'm sure there's some good information in there.
Yeah, we'll do.
Uh, Thank you. Um, so I do have a couple of things. Obviously, we're kind of in a mid period right now. We're still waiting on some more rulemaking to come out in regards to the educational exam and CBOs. Obviously, we're in the lull between that and remote ID. I don't think anybody is still reeling over remote ID. Um, we did. I don't know if we had an opportunity because I know we. It's weird timing with meetings, but Dave, I know you did have a conversation with some folks at the FAA. If you want to recap that real quick.
Okay. It was with several of the executives and of the UAS integration office, and we went over a couple of topics, 89115A and B, and that was significant to us because in the final rule it stated that you had to be manipulating the sticks and the operator manipulating the controls must be able to see the drone. And so we were wondering, a little paranoid, but we thought it was important to ask uh, because the wording was different from 88409, the recreational exception, as well as Part 107, where it says, or a visual observer must keep the drone in visual line of sight. And we were assured that this was not, there's no effort to exclude FPV. The FAA expressed that they were very interested, as evidenced by their extensive comments and responses and changes in the final rule. And one of the guys on our side of the call volunteered to follow up and ask the FAA for an advisory circular on that. We also had some discussion on 89501, and that has to do more with commercial. So a good discussion overall. We also brought up the point about that there is now no recreational representation on the Drone Advisory Committee. And I was advised to keep my application active. And the hope is that there will be openings popping up through the year outside of a normal 2-year cycle, which is the term of DAC members. So a good call, some follow up, but very much what we had hoped, and that is that the integration office is supportive of recreational and supportive of FPV.
Excellent. So, on a secondary topic related kind of to regulation, we did have, hopefully, you all saw the post that I put up on Facebook and here in Discord um, regarding Senator Mike Lee's bill, which was essentially federal. He was trying to introduce through a uh, like a budgetary backdoor legislation that would allow for essentially federalism of the first 200 feet or so of airspace. And basically, what that means is that states and local areas would be able to determine how the first 200 feet of airspace would be utilized for UAVs. And initially, this was something that came out last year, something that he was attempting to push through legislation, and it kind of fell flat on its face. But essentially, some people would think that okay, so localities and states and counties and cities and whatnot being able to determine what the regulations would be for the first 200 feet might be a good thing. But what you need to understand is that um, everybody kind of needs to understand is that it kind of falls into um, a patchwork idea. So essentially, anything that the FAA says in regards to what needs to be done to fly would still stand in those areas. Anything that the localities would do would be above and beyond that. So a situation that might be a little closer to home is that like the a state government might require a company to do X and X, right? And then the company, determines, well, that's not quite enough, so they're going to do X and X plus Y in order to maintain a certain standard. Um, so essentially, you'd be dealing with a patchwork of ideas. It could be taxation, basically pay to fly, is a big concern. So you'd have to get a permit from the city in order to fly. And then you'd have to get a permit from the county as well. And then you might even have to get a permit from the state on top of all of that. So how much money are you putting out of pocket to actually just go flying for fun? Um, and then, there's other issues too as to what you could possibly do. They could shut down airspace above and beyond what the FAA has done, or their determinations. FAA hasn't really shut down airspace, but um, they could basically bar you from certain airspaces, which at this point is that's kind of the realm of the FAA alone. So um, and then imagine you're a business person who perhaps travels as a UAV operator. Um, and you'd have to have this Bible of sorts of all the regulations across all the different places that you're doing work, and make sure that you're actually following all those regulations and that you've got all your fees in place and you've paid all your taxes and whatnot. And it's just a nightmare that would have been possible through all of that. Excuse me. So, um, as far as I know, that actual legislation didn't get brought up during the budgetary meeting.
Yeah, this was an amendment to the continuing resolution, which was passed, which included the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. So Senator Lee of Utah was trying to append effectively an earmark to a piece of critical legislation. Senator Lee has also brought this topic up 2 or 3 times before. The most recent bill was Senate 2502, which he brought up in 2019. That had no other co-sponsorship and held at about a 3% probability of passage. It did not go anywhere. It did not make it out of committee. And then Senator Lee also brought this topic up to then Department of Transportation Secretary designate Buttigieg, now Secretary Buttigieg, during his confirmation hearings. So I think we can expect to hear more from Senator Lee. And it's not been positive for us. So my thanks to Josh for jumping on that, getting people to respond quickly. We did not have a lot of time. This is a good example of the network we are building within FPV Freedom Coalition. We heard about this from people who are close to Congress and watching the CR. We heard about it, and both the DSP Alliance, Drone Service Provider Alliance with Kenji Sukahara and Vic Moss alerted us, as well as a couple others, and so we were able to, thanks to Josh, get that out and alert people to that happening. So we are a 501c3, so we're not supposed to do a lot of lobbying, but getting the word out is certainly within our purview. So my thanks to anyone who've reached out to their senators for this.
Absolutely. And Vic was awesome. Him and the team over at the DSPA, they created an article very quickly regarding the situation. He did post in the FPVFC before I did, so thank you to him. I kind of stole that post and utilized it just because I feel like I don't know what Vic's network is specifically amongst the FPV groups on Facebook, so I was able to share it out. My goal was to share it out a little further, I think. So I wasn't trying to subvert him. I just wanted to get it out to our network a little quicker so that people could respond. So
Good complementary relationship.
yeah, as well as that link in that post. And let me see if amongst all my other links, probably by the end, I will post a link to your senators. It's good to have that link on par or available. I'm sorry, in case something like this comes up. I was able to quickly reach out to both the senators in my state, and within 10 minutes, hit both of them up. And literally, I just took what I wrote and put my information in, copied and pasted it to both of them. Um, and kind of went from there. So very simple, and a lot of times they'll just send you a confirmation saying they got it. My fear is that within the same day they wouldn't get the information. But again, I don't know how their aides and whatnot relay that kind of information to them on a quick time basis. So, but if you did submit something, thank you. I do appreciate it. So, all right. Any questions regarding that bill or anything that we can kind of clarify on it? All right. Well, then I'll go ahead and move on.
Just glad nothing happened with it so far.
Yeah, true story. And it's something we've been watching for a long time. Senator Mike Lee kind of makes his, I think I posted this in the chat, but he makes his druthers with federalism type bills. And while, generally there's, federalism is, I feel is somewhat of a good thing. There's other areas where it's just like, probably not the best solution for this. So
the tough thing is when they are able to just sneak those things into a bill at the last minute and attach them to something else. That makes it really hard for us to pay attention to.
Go Drone. Is Vic Moss a part of this team? No, not specifically, but he's definitely a partner that we work with. And definitely somebody amongst our network of people that we provide information back and forth. So
And also, Vic Moss and Kenji Sukahara have started a 501c6. That's the DSPA, or the Drone Service Provider Alliance, and that's for commercial drone operators. There you go. You
yep.
found it. And I'm on the advisory. This is Dave. I'm on the advisory board of that organization.
And Vic did join us for one of our meetings a couple of times ago and
Yep.
expressed his he's hoping to make more of these meetings as he can.
Yeah.
And he joined as a member of FPVFC. So thanks,
Yes.
thanks Vic for that. It's a good question. So what's the Venn diagram? What's the relationship? So officially, I'm on the advisory board of the DSPA, and Kenji Sugahara is also on DAC. They're both Kenji Sugahara and Vic Moss are DAC members. Kenji has been active in the ARC as well as early work preparatory to the DAC. He's now as a DAC member. He's also working on the latest tasking group, and he has also been very active in ASTM, the F38 committee responsible for the remote ID standard. And so I've also signed up to work on that, or joined the ASTM as well, and signed up to the F38 committee as well. So a number of overlaps, and we feel it is complementary in the best way, from the view that we certainly want to encourage young recreational people to consider aviation as a career, and maybe it would include drones, or maybe it'll just be something technical, and that would be outstanding. And for someone a little more relevant and closer to that age bracket, we have Alex with us.
Are you saying I'm getting old, Dave? Is that what you're saying? Thanks, Alex. Thanks.
Just here to help, right, Alex?
Mentally, I'm not, but jeez. All right. Well,
Satchel Paige, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?
16 with the body of a 60-year-old. All right. So, all right. So I'm gonna get to some of the news. If you're new, we like to go over some drones in the news kind of issues and stories and whatnot. It's definitely something that helps build a solid base for the good that drones are doing, and the goods that or the good things that innovation in drones and UAVs are accomplishing throughout the world. So this comes from Reuters. This unfortunately does not have a happy ending, but they did use drones in the Himalayas after a flooded tunnel resulted in um, 35 construction workers going missing. So they did send a drone with I think about 5 cameras on it down a tunnel looking for those missing construction workers. Unfortunately, they didn't find anything, no bodies, either alive or dead. So we'll hold out hope that those folks are okay. But yeah, it's good that we're using drones for search and rescues. Unfortunate that it was not a happy ending to that story, at least yet. All right. Let's see. I also do have, on the subject of Mr. Moss and Mr. Sugahara, I will drop this in here. Um, they did a interview with Danielle Gag. Is it Gagney? Hopefully I pronounced that right. Over at Commercial UAV News regarding broadcast ID and its capabilities. And I think they touch base into a little bit of the difference between network and broadcast, and why network is not actually necessary for drones, including consolidation within a USS
And why is it not necessary?
situation. I haven't specifically had time to watch the video yet, so
Well, a lot of what the point this is getting a lot of airtime, if you'll forgive the pun, in the latest tasking group. They of course, as very explicit in the final rule for remote ID, the FAA has been very clear that remote ID it will not be used for detect and avoid technologies. And there's some good reasons for that. One of which is that you require protected spectrum or a dedicated radio frequency, and that's licensed and protected in English terms. And because of that, the final rule transmits, or the RID transmits on frequencies that are similar to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which are not protected spectrum for UAS. So that, as well as the view that remote ID is for identification, not for DAA, that's why there's when we get into discussions about the unmanned traffic management, RID is not a detect and avoid technology. And broadcast RID is necessary. I can hear the dripping sarcasm. Well, it's better than networking. I appreciate the prompting, text chat.
let's see. All right, just checking the YouTube to see if there's any comments over there real quick.
Yeah, hopefully that stream's working. There's nobody chatting for us over there, but it says there's 5 people watching.
Like it's working on my screen, so I think we're okay there. All right. So this is, and I'm going to preface this before I even drop the link. This is not to shame anybody, okay? Because anytime there's an issue regarding drones and the law, it's just not a good thing all around. But at the same time, this is not to shame anybody, but more of a point that I kind of want to make. So this comes from the Cron. I don't even know what that is, but it's out of Tampa, Florida. Obviously, several people were flying drones at the Super Bowl, which the FAA did put out TFRs at least 2 weeks in advance of that. But the point I'm trying to make is not that anybody, people, shouldn't be doing this, because number one, it makes the entire industry look like we don't follow the rules. But second, what kind of education are people getting when they purchase a drone? What kind of information are they getting, you know, when they just grab something off Amazon, or something that doesn't have, like DJI has, certain modes that it restricts where you're flying based on, the connection and whatnot. And people, circumvent that. And I understand in some situations why you would, but at the same time, the education, I don't think it's still missing. And because of that, people get into trouble. And so, which is one of the reasons that we exist. Obviously, we can't get to everybody, but the more people that know about us, the more reach we'll have, and that's always a kind of a balancing act. But and same goes for the AMA, and for other organizations and the people who manufacture and sell the drones. So I question whether the individuals that got in trouble at the Super Bowl even knew if what they were doing was wrong. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I do question some of that stuff.
Yeah, and Alex makes a good point. The education is there, and Alex, you're a member of the FAA Safety Team now.
Yep.
And I'm looking to join that as well. And are you a drone pro now, or looking to be a drone
No,
pro?
I am a drone pro. So I am. So when I got approved to be on the safety team, I was also approved to be a drone pro.
Excellent.
Can you
You want
explain
to
a little
explain what
bit?
a drone pro
Yeah,
is? Yeah.
exactly.
Sure. So I guess I'm not in the shirt for that, but a drone pro is basically someone who, I guess, the FAA safety team or your local FSDO thinks is qualified enough to basically either help others or communicate with others in the community around you about different things, about drone rules, or even helping someone out. It's sort of a
And
gateway
what
between the FAA and the people.
and a FSDO is?
Flight Standards District Office. Yeah.
So one of the things that we've done repeatedly with the DAC is that one of the channels of education is the FAA safety team. And so to Josh's point, how do we get the word out? How do we communicate with people? And the good news with the FAA safety team is the education goes out to private pilots, so full scale, as well as commercial, as well as recreational. So they have as of, let's see, last when I presented this, that was back in February, there were 57,000 out of 199,000 commercial Part 107 certificate holders are taking advantage of this type of education. So folks who are even making money from drones have a limited, there could be 3 times as many taking advantage of education that's there for the offing. So we're working um, to make sure that this organization gets more and more and more UAS material through it, and those of us that can are looking to join and offer our time and help. But I think Josh is on a key point, because my nervousness is that we'll hear about the careless, clueless, and criminal. And I hate when I hear that, because that's how they got the 2018 Reauthorization Act approved, by touting that phrase and also putting forward the NPRM. So, we want to have voluntary education and have folks pay attention, particularly at big events where the FAA goes way out of their way to communicate and establish TFRs early on.
So TechCheck pointed out, and I missed this in the article, the individual here was a FAA licensed drone pilot and was aware of the TFR. So, bro, I tried to excuse it for you, but I got nothing now.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
that's true. I mean, and as we know, the FAA used Super Bowl 53 and 54 as test cases, so they bring to bear a multitude of federal agencies, state agencies, and there are loads of counter drone technologies that they're testing. So it's like, if ever there is a place you want to avoid, a Super Bowl is a good one to just don't bother.
mm-hmm. For sure.
And we've got a
One thing
question
I
in
want-
YouTube now too.
Oh, perfect. Let me go grab that. Go ahead, Alex, while I'm reading the question.
I was gonna say one more thing about the drone pro stuff. At least, the website is the FASafety.gov. The website is outdated to today's standards, but they are working on modernizing it, hopefully similar to the Drone Zone website. But I don't know when that's gonna happen, because it is on government time. But that will be updated, as well as that's also the place where that website is the same place that 107 pilots will be able to take the recurrency for allowing night ops and the ops over people and that kind of stuff.
Wonder if they're going to add their little animated drone character to the website. I forget what
Buzzy
that
the
guy.
drone?
Buzzy.
Yeah.
And so what Alex just mentioned was, for those of you who have your Part 107, hopefully this is positive. If you need to take your recurrent test, after March 1st, I think,
First.
or March 1st of 2021. Good news,
Or-
you can do it online, and you can do it for free. So that's a nice thing. So it's now a recurring exam, and you don't have to go in person, and it's not a big chunk of change.
All right. So, getting to the question on YouTube, has there been any updates on repairing your own drones yet? Dustin, can you clarify that for me in terms of remote ID or in terms of what?
Yeah, I assume that has something to do with the remote ID regulations and what you're allowed to do.
From that standpoint, yes, you can repair drones. There's no reason you can't. The question will be going forward once remote ID is fully active, which would be September 2023. Am I right on that, Dan?
Yeah. Yes. August. Yeah. Anyway, 2023.
Yeah, it's going to be late 2023. When that is active, the question will be around the design and production as opposed to actual repairing. So I don't think there was ever any issue with repairing drones or right to repair or anything like that with remote ID.
Yeah, with the NPRM, it was a little questionable as to what was required, repair logs, things of that nature. And then until you get into Category 4 of the flight over people, where you have to log and have a certified repair people, that's effectively, they're treating those heavier drones like manned aircraft. Other than that, it's a lot of changes in the remote ID rule that, we're good to work on our drones to our heart's content. We can keep breaking them and repairing them.
So Red J asks, will you be allowed to repair and work on the transponder or the remote ID broadcast module? So no. Now, depending on how they're manufactured, they're technically supposed to be tamper resistant. So
beacon.
so you could
beacon.
Yeah. So you could kind of take that to mean a couple of different things. So, obviously I've had some design ideas of what those would look like in terms of a remote ID broadcast module. And if there's like maybe a wire breaks or something like that, soldering it back on, I think that would probably be okay. But again, it depends on the type of
I'd be
designs
surprised
that the FAA approves.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd be surprised if a remote ID module that has wires that you have physical access to would even get approved.
Well, and see, that's the thing is like, one of my ideas would be the broadcast module and then a separate kind of pigtail with the GPS on it. So the module could sit inside the frame, whereas the GPS would need sky access. So, if something like that breaks, then, maybe that, but I think tamper resistant is generally meant in the remote ID language as software or the firmware that's on it. They don't want you to be able to spoof it or change the information that it's broadcasting or lower the power of the module or anything like that.
You mean like by putting tinfoil around it?
Yeah, well,
So this is a good. So what we're moving into is the means of compliance and the declaration of compliance on the broadcast module and the UAS standard remote ID UAS. And this is one of the reasons why I was so interested in getting involved with the ASTM F38 work, because they are working on a standard. And if you go into the RID final rule, you'll see multiple references to standards of consensus-based standards that will be approved. So what will happen is the means of compliance will be put out by the ASTM, and if you build to that standard, then you can get a declaration of compliance. Now, given all of the aspects that are going to all the requirements that are in the RID final rule, I'm betting that this is going to be a closed system from a perspective of being able to update it, change it, alter it, etc. But if you have to set up your ID beacon with your reg number, then you could spoof by well, yes.
So technically, yeah, I mean, technically, it's not a registration number, it's a serial number. So, yeah, if you had your buddy's serial number, but it's going to be similar to,
You'll line the serial with your registration number.
Yeah,
that's
so
exactly right.
and you have to input that into the FAA's website when you register, or after the fact, it has to be keyed in there. So yeah, you could probably get your buddies, but then you're just going to get your buddy in trouble, and he's not going to be your buddy anymore.
Right. Our objective in helping out on the ASTM F38 committee is, let's see if we can get the standard to a place where it is usable by a manufacturer. And right now, the ASTM standard is written like a requirements document. It's not yet at a spec level. And so for those of you who have manufacturing, why does the standard documentation cost so much? Shouldn't standards be free? So if we're able to get the ASTM work both on the manufacturing standard as well as the RID standard to be something that's really useful to a manufacturer, then we feel we've really done our job, because that means that you've got a level playing field on building a broadcast module or a standard UAS or a standard RID UAS.
Let's see. Go Drone. Is Red Cat the only USA approved remote ID manufacturer? As far as I know, Red Cat is not a approved RID manufacturer.
I don't think anyone is, because we still don't have an MOC or a DOC standards. Or I mean, they're still the race is now on to get that information ready so that manufacturers can make the dates that are in the RID final rule.
Yeah. I do know that this was out a little while ago. I do believe Kenji Sugahara does have a patent for some kind of remote ID system. But even that, I think, is still in the beginnings. He does have a patent, but I think if anybody's utilizing that, it would just, licensing and whatnot for that regard.
Right.
But
yeah, it's a protection of intellectual property.
Right.
He has no hardware, no software behind it.
Yeah, so I think everybody's gonna be kind of running for the door to figure this out. And again, the FAA has kind of supplied the requirements. It's up to everybody to come up with a method. So I would imagine that we're gonna see some ideas start to roll out in the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months. Especially for standard remote ID, because that's going to be a requirement of anybody manufacturing ready to fly drones, with the exception of, let me clarify that that's not going to technically affect the ready to fly that you would get from like manufacturers like Get FPV, where they're building the quad, as long as they leave out a significant part of the quad. Recommended part would be the radio receiver for any of those manufacturers out there listening. But that will satisfy the home built requirement by having to place in something like a flight controller, a receiver, something that's necessary. A VTX technically isn't necessary to fly one of those, so that would not be a major missing part. Just FYI, just throwing that quick little hints and tips out to all those guys. Pyro, Get FPV, RDQ, if you're all listening. Let's see. I got some more questions. These are great questions. Thank you. DJI already has a working remote ID system. To To a certain degree, yes. I believe they do. I don't know if it meets the entire requirements, but again, I don't own anything DJI, so
Yeah, like the anybody using a DJI system can be picked up by DJI's Aeroscope, which you could argue is a remote ID system, but it doesn't comply with the FAA's new requirements for remote ID, of course.
Yeah, we're also we're confusing things on with XJet's question, and GoDrone is shouldn't standards be free? Yeah, standards are free. The rule is we get the rule free. So we now have a final rule with RID, and it'll specify an MOC and a DOC, a means of compliance and a declaration of compliance. So those documents we'll have for free. So done. Now, the ASTM document is an organization that builds a document, and people like me pay to join the organization, and it's a standards organization that is a privately held organization that is international. So, as an engineer, the standards are a good thing, and they help keep costs down for designers as well as manufacturers. And it costs money. We have our weekly calls with over 50 people on these calls, and they're dedicating time from the companies that they're representing. So this is, the notion of this is not the federal government of any individual country. This is an international organization that is, it is not a nonprofit.
all right, let's see. When is the module supposed to be available? This comes from TextJet. I did see that Alex responded whenever someone develops one. Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of steps, as Dave was mentioning earlier, the means of compliance and the declaration of compliance, or DOC and MOC. Basically, you have to develop one. You have to, as you develop it, you have to submit a declaration of compliance, which means you jump through the 50 hoops of building it, testing it, getting a third party to test it, getting it to comply with all the standards that the FAA has set forward. And then you send in a declaration of compliance, essentially stating that you've done all those things. And then at that point, the FAA will review and accept or reject. At that point, then those companies will need to manufacture those things, price them out, and get them to the consumers, which would be us. So, um, again, we have about a 30-month window for that to start happening. And hopefully, we'll start to see some of that roll out soon. I can imagine that there are some companies who are already jumping on that, and would will be rolling some of that stuff out in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we do know of a couple of modules, but they were in development prior to the spec for military work. So the folks didn't know, and truly the rule is not a specification, so it's pretty
Vague and open.
Yeah, general, vague. Probability of a delay. Yeah, HipChat. That's a really good question. What's the probability of a delay? Do we think that we'll hit the target date? It's certainly possible. It's not, the technology is not sophisticated. The testing and a good spec from the ASTM will drop the cost of a developer and manufacturer a lot. And an ASTM standard will also go a long way for compatibility module to module. So while that will lower differential advantage from manufacturer to manufacturer, it will make it a lot better for us as consumers because there will be interoperability. So yeah, I think we could make it. I'm optimistic.
I'm really curious to see how they decide to bend physics to make things like the module not interfere with any 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz frequencies, signals, get GPS accurate data, all that stuff on a small 4-inch drone.
Yeah, and the the GPS altitude is a sticking point. That's one that may have to bend. Is there a schedule on the ASTM spec? It's been published, and so the remote ID spec is out. It's being updated to comply with the final RID. Should be out a couple months in that magnitude. Yeah, and I agree with Dan and Q Joe. Yeah, QA absolutely, as well as design, and we're trying. The the ASTM is trying to help and to try to discern what the FAA had in mind, work their way to create an acceptable MOC from the FAA. So then, then now we've got a recipe that's accepted by the FAA. That's why the ASTM work is so important. So it will speed and make a consistent solution for the modules as well as the standard RID UAS.
The other thing that I think we haven't talked a lot about, and Dan kind of, hit it on the head, was the frequencies. And do you think that they're going to have to set aside a small part of the spectrum in that area so that we're not interfering with control signals? Or what are your thoughts on that, Dave?
Well, I do think there's going to be protected spectrum for UAS, but that'll be for detect and avoid. I don't think they're going to set aside protected spectrum. I think they'll just make sure that it's off on the side. If we think about what we have right now with the beacon is issuing a low radius transmission. So that's all that's required. That's all we have to put out. So I do think that we will be able to make it work. And I absolutely respect what Dan and GoDrone were saying. There absolutely are issues that are physics as well as cost. And the GPS accuracy has a big concern for a bunch of us.
And as the remote ID standard says, it has to be something that can be picked up by your mobile devices. So that means today it has to be 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi/Bluetooth frequency ranges that your cell phone already has a radio for.
Right. And TextChat is asking, will it be a Part 15 device? And so that question means, will the RID devices likely go through an FCC Part 15 certification process so that they won't require licensing? That's my bet. Yes. They aren't targeting RTK kind of level accuracy.
They're talking, I think altitude is the loosest accuracy, and I think that's accurate within 150 feet. All the other latitude, longitude is all within 100 feet, I do believe.
Yeah, I remember something very similar to that. Something roughly like 100 feet of accuracy.
Yeah, but I do know the altitude, because it was not barometer based. It would be geolocation. It did specify it to be within 150, I think, feet accuracy.
So what if you're at 390 feet and your GPS is off? What if you're at 420 feet and your GPS is off and says you're only at 300 feet?
So, here's the funny thing, and this is just me as a freestyle pilot, okay? And I would assume, Alex, you could probably chip in on this from a racing perspective, but I think it's more frequent during freestyle is my quad's upside down 40% of the time. So do I need to have 2 GPS receivers on it? So
you need your GPS on a gimbal, so it always paces up. Sorry.
Hey, there you go. There you go. We'll start developing spaceships now, right? All right. So, let's see. The other thing is that your altitude, especially with the type of drones that we fly, guys, is going to be changing significantly over you're supposed to broadcast the message every second. Can you imagine how much it's like you're at 400, then you're at 100, and then you're at 350, and then you're at 2, and then you're, the next 6 messages are you, going
Cartwheeling
from
across the
0 to
ground.
5. Oh, I can just imagine if we were on network what that would look like to a poor USS. This drone's just going crazy. Yeah, for real. So, great conversation, guys. Yeah, let's see. Let me jump over to YouTube. Anything over here? Nope, nothing over here. So, guys, if you see my head swinging, I have about 30, probably 40 inches of, no, sorry, let's probably 60 inches of monitor here. So, of all the things that are going on, Discord and news articles and videos and YouTube and all that kind of stuff.
You can never
So,
have enough screen
Okay.
real estate.
That's right. Okay, go drone. What's the velocity of radio frequency?
yes.
He says, just make sure the quads go faster than the signal.
That
If
would
you
be
can
awesome.
do that, somebody will pay you lots of money.
Sign me up. All right. I will finish. I do have a couple more articles, and I will thank Dave for sending me articles this evening. I do appreciate that. Most of these articles did come from him. Actually, I got 2 more, and then I will let you all go. This one touches on how wireless charging could unlock commercial drone potential. This is kind of a no-brainer. I don't know that we need an article on this, but I think this is what we all thought commercial recharging would look like, would be wireless. Um, the only issue I see is just, in the case of this particular drone that's sitting on this particular wireless charging pad, is how are they getting that signal, how are they getting that power into the battery? So I don't know if they've got coils within the feet there, or if it's just so powerful that it's, got the charging coil, it can reach the charging coil up into the quad, I imagine. But um, I'm not going to go too deep into this one. I'll just leave it there because I do want to touch base on this other one. And this comes from Drone DJ. And FPV drones capture Red Bull's natural selection snowboarding event. This is super cool. We all know Red Bull's been doing this kind of stuff for a while. Yes, it is an X8. And I do believe Gab 707 and Jet were the ones doing the flying.
I definitely saw Jet posting stuff on Instagram about being there.
Yep. So it's great to see some of our talented pilots from the industry working across cross purposes with Red Bull and their competitions. It's a great way to capture the extreme sports footage, especially snowboarding, downhill, all this freestyle stuff. I can imagine we're going to see much, much, much more of this stuff in the future. So
I'm
maybe
definitely
you're not.
jealous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jackson Hole's
Did you guys-
wonderful.
You guys see Mark Rober's latest video where Nerf got featured?
No, I didn't. I did see it, but I haven't had time to watch it.
Yeah. Nerf
I'll have
got
to check
featured
that out.
in Mark Rober's latest video, so that was pretty neat. Took like maybe 10 seconds talking about drone racing.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, drop the link in the chat if you can real quick, Alex. Mark Rober, he's the NASA engineer, correct? I do believe.
Yes, ex-NASA engineer. He left, but
yeah. He's if you haven't watched his videos on YouTube, he has some pretty crazy videos. All about physics and engineering and stuff like that. He's definitely an inspiration if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So these specific drones were built for this race. As XJet did post, they are X8, which means they have 8 motors. And I do believe they're an over. Yep, they are. They're a over under configuration. So 4 arms, 8 motors. And yeah, some great footage that came out of that. So very, very cool that we're custom building quads for special purposes, and they look like they've got some serious video equipment on top of them as well. So really neat. But with that, unless there's any other questions, comments, or anything else, I will give you guys back your evening. And
And I'll just add that I welcome the questions on the on production and specs and standards, and
Yep.
either contact me directly, or if you have additional questions here. This is an area where I think we as FPVFC can really help, and that's why we're digging in and helping with the ASTM, and as well as on the DAC.
We should probably point out that
the DAC work continues.
That there is a DAC meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, the end of February,
20,
right?
20, yeah, good thought. 24 February.
And they have said they'll be live streaming that all over the place, like Facebook, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah. Wednesday the 24th. That's showing. My whole time is 8:30.
Yeah, I was a little
4
confused
p.m.
because their post on Facebook said from like noon to 4 or something, and then their actual real announcement says from like 9 to 4. So I don't know if they're just not streaming the whole thing, or if they're just they have that much prep time.
Their standard operating procedure is to ask people to put a hold on the full day, and then they'll narrow it down as they get the agenda figured out.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, definitely tune into that. There'll be some good conversation around that, and then we'll see what we get. And then beyond that, let us know what you think of the YouTube live stream, and if there's something we can do to improve or anything like that. It's something new for us, but we definitely wanted to get some faces behind the voices and let you guys see who we are, and that we're not just robots sitting in caves somewhere. So,
and not everybody loves to climb into Discord and join us. So YouTube's
another option.
Cage.
Brick walls everywhere.
Well, dorms were designed by prison designers, prison architects.
You're rocking the shirt, though. We love it, Alex.
They like to cram y'all in there. Believe me, I know. I lived in a dorm for 2 years. Don't miss it. All right, with that, have a great week and a great weekend. We will see you all in 2 weeks. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Have a good evening.